You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Michaud, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another special edition of the Dog Pound Podcast right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network. We are live from Niagara IceDogs training camp. Myself, Brandon Caputo. Yep. Brandon Caputo alongside Kyle Aikett here. Again, if you guys want to make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter at Dog Pound Podcast for all of our updates regarding the IceDog content on the network. And as well, you can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13_AGM and my co-host at JustKyle51. Kyle, this is a big first episode for us back after our announcement. I know we had kind of teased what was to come the last couple of episodes, but now we can finally talk about it and discuss that we are now the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs. So
it's official.
Yep.
We are official.
Got the official check mark, so that was really awesome to be able to announce that.
Now we need the Twitter check mark.
Yeah.
All right, Twitter. Now we need help from you. We need to be verified.
We aren't going to get a Twitter check mark like our friend Steve Clark, but we'll get there one day. But regardless of that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in today, obviously, if you can hear the Zamboni in the background a little bit, we are on site at Niagara IceDogs training camp for some great stuff. We've got some great interviews lined up with players, coaching staff as well, and hopefully hear from some of the management team as well, if possible. But, Kyle, first thoughts on just kind of what the first day and a half of training camp has looked like for the Niagara IceDogs?
To be honest, I think we're feeling what a lot of the other players are feeling. Like, this is a fresh start for the team, and this is kind of almost like a fresh start for us. We're seeing a lot of new faces, not only on the ice, but new faces in coaching, management, a lot of backstage stuff. And, you know, it really does feel good. I think there's a new positive outlook with this team, and I think a lot of the players do see that they're, you know, we kind of discussed it off air. Like, the team looks like they have a new swagger about them. Like, they're hungry, they're ready to go, and they're ready for the season to start already. And to kind of show, you know, like last year was just a kind of like a fluke, like just put it behind them and then move on to greener pastures, I guess you would say. But I think they're looking great from what we've seen in training camp so far. There's a lot of the returning players that have shown a lot of improvement, a lot of the new players that are here as well, via draft or trade. They're looking great, and just overall it looks like again, a different atmosphere, but a good atmosphere.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of positivity going on, and again, it's been a long kind of 2 to 3 years with the COVID shutdown in between that, so hoping for bigger and better things from the IceDogs this season, and it looks like the intensity at training camp is definitely a little bit different than we saw maybe last year coming back from the COVID shutdown season. So with that said, on today's episode, later in the show, we're going to get to our interviews with the players and coaching staff, etc., that we have done here live from training camp. But with this first segment today, we're going to kind of just discuss kind of some of the players that we've noticed at training camp that have stood out through the first couple of sessions here for the first day and a half, and kind of just give a small projection of what we think the lineup's going to look like right now. Again, nothing's official, no cuts have been made or anything like that, but again, we can kind of project for the most part what the opening day lineup for the Niagara IceDogs is going to be. Maybe a 1, 2, 3 positions at most would be up for grabs in my opinion, but again, we can kind of still go over kind of what that looks like. Yeah. So, Kyle, again, I've been down doing some interviews for most of the first day, so what did you really see from those drills, and who really stood out for you?
Day one was interesting because obviously we got new coaching staff coming in. They're going to have a different mindset. They're going to run training camp their own way, and I liked what I've seen so far at day one, especially from the coaching side. They really focused hard on the compete-type drills where they want to see the complete level of players defensively and offensively. But a lot of people stood out for me, a lot of new people as well. One name I know you're gonna laugh. My boy, shout outs to him. Sammy Douglas Najim impressed me again in day one of training camp. I remember seeing him in day one last year and saying they need to keep an eye on him or even sign him, and I'm glad that they did take the opportunity and saw that and signed Sammy. And then this year, again, he's looking in great season form already. He's battling a tough spot. A lot of great defensemen on the team this year with only 6 spots in the lineup to make. So, but he's definitely improved in his speed. I've seen a lot of improvements in his game speed-wise. Stronger defensively in front of his own net was one of the things I've seen in the one compete drill. Sammy did look really good in that. But then he's also battling other defensemen like Nathan Reboux. I believe that's how you say his last name.
Nathan Reboux.
Looks very noticeable. Again, he had a lot of offensive upside to him, but on those compete drills in front of the net, he looked really good defensively. Was clearing the front of the net a lot, which is great to see, and you want to see out of the defensemen on this team. But again, there's going to be a lot of great defensemen battling for spots, and those two definitely out of the defensive side were 2 guys that I thought that looked great.
And Sammy, again, he's no stranger to having to be called up and having to kind of prove himself. He earned a contract last year out of training camp, and then really impressed when they had all the defensive injuries and really had to come up and play a very significant role. They had even games where they only had 4 defensemen that were dressed. So he played in some very tough situations, and I think if he's an extra defenseman again this year, he's going to take that role in whatever aspect it is. He's going to go out there and try to produce whenever he's called upon.
Knock on wood that we don't get a lot of injuries like we did this past season, because we saw some situations where they had to do what they had to do, but we saw defensemen filling in forward spots and forwards filling in defenseman spots. So let's hope we don't go through an injury scare like that last year that we do and then going into this season.
And the COVID absences as well.
Yes, that's right. Last year was definitely a tough year, but I think we're going into a new, we're going into a new year, but I think we're going into a familiar year before the COVID era.
Getting back to a normal season.
Getting back to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of other people that actually impressed me on day one, too. I'm going to go stick to the forward side now. One was... this is going to be tough. We know me on the show and me with pronouncing names, we're going to have to try to ask him and find out what the exact pronunciation of his name is. But Matthew, I'm going to say Papai?
I said Papai, but I don't know. Let's ask our play-by-play expert who's next to us. What would you think, Clarky? Pape. Yeah. Thank you, Steve Clark, for the great pronunciation.
Pape.
He's going with Pape.
He was acquired in a trade from Guelph. He's actually a former Brantford 99er, so there's a connection there with the coaching staff and management, so that's also cool to see. He looked very good. He's got a great hockey sense, puck control. I think fans shouldn't be looking that we're going to get a replacement for a Daniil Gushin. We're not going to have that type of player going into this year, but if we're looking to someone that has that flash in the pan, a guy that has good hands, and can make a really slick play is a guy like Matthew Pape that can do that for us. I've seen a lot of that out of training camp this year. Pasquale Zito, who we acquired in a trade from Windsor. Pasquale Zito. I know, it's a joke. Acquired in a trade from Windsor. He's a Red Wings draft pick. Looks very comfortable out there. I saw a lot more of his physical game, which was great to see. He was definitely giving a physical presence out there. But from what I've seen during the play-wise, he had a great hockey sense and IQ. He reads the play very great. I think that he's going to be a great addition to this team and fit into that top 6 role really well.
He scored a goal in the team scrimmage this morning, so finally getting his feet wet, scoring the first goal, and it looks like he's built some chemistry off the ice with a couple of IceDog players as well. You can see him interacting with guys like Pano, Fimis, and I think that's good for both sides as well. It gets them familiar with some of these guys, and it gets those younger players somebody to lean on, like a Pasquale Zito coming from such a great program with the Windsor Spitfires and a team that went to Game 7 of the OHL Finals. Pasquale Zito played top-line minutes, as we heard from Manny Pava on our last episode, played alongside their 2 great players, and Will Cooley and Wyatt Johnston when he was in the lineup, and he dropped the gloves, played a 2-way game, and also wanted to contribute offensively at almost a point per game when he was in the lineup. So it looks like Pasquale Zito, they gave up a lot for him in the offseason as far as draft picks, but seems like he's the type of player that they needed to bring into this lineup if they want to be a playoff contending team.
Exactly. You mentioned Pano Fimis. We were talking to him, too, yesterday, and even today. He's coming into the season obviously playing with that chip on his shoulder from going to the draft, not being picked, seeing a lot of players get picked ahead of him. He's going to go into this year. He still can go into the draft next year. He's going to be playing with that small chip on his shoulder to at least get drafted next year. And, we've seen a lot and I mentioned it earlier, we've seen a lot of a swagger in this team, and there's a lot in Pano Fimis, and he's definitely looks like he's improved mature-wise, and even on the ice, he looks like he's just hungry. He's hungry to his confidence level is on another level, and I think he looked fantastic out there.
Yep.
One guy I'm going to point out that I seen also on defense.
You didn't want to mention Pano Fimis being at Toronto Maple Leafs camp? You don't think?
Oh, I thought we talked about that. I swear I thought we talked about it in the last episode. We did talk about it,
but I figured you'd want to throw it in again. But
I mean,
I'm sure that helped.
You hear it enough, though.
I do.
Yeah.
But I'll mention it, and that's it.
Yeah, well, when he does make the team and he sends you that signed Leaf jersey, you can hand it over to me. You don't need to keep it.
All right.
No. But David Jesus is a name that I want to bring up now because I've been watching him, and he's definitely one of the more noticeable players out there, especially on the defensive side. We acquired him in a trade from Oshawa. He's got great size, but with his great size, he's bringing in some speed as well. He's been zipping around out there, but also handling that puck at the same time and creating plays in the offensive zone. I think that's going to be a really great asset for the IceDogs. Especially he needs a little bit of tad of work, I think, in front of the net, more of his defensive game, but obviously that'll come with time. But from what I've seen out of David G's, I think he's going to be a very, very key part of this defensive squad.
And that's the thing. They acquired these players all from playoff teams. These are all playoff teams for the most part. David Jesus coming from a good program in Oshawa. He knows what it's like to be in the playoffs. He knows what it's like to get there and what it takes for a team to be able to get to the playoffs. So I think bringing in a guy like him is definitely paying dividends, and you can see it already even in training camp that he's going to be in a top 4 role for this team, and it's kind of inserting kind of what like we had mentioned off air, the losses that they had in the offseason with overagers leaving, and then you lose your captain Dakota Betts on the defensive side of things. You trade Isaac N right away. I think David Jesus can fit into that top 4 role very nicely, and they're going to be relying upon him heavily for that, but I think he's ready for the challenge after we spoke with him this morning.
Exactly, and then someone I also want to point out, too, on 4 that we actually acquired him from Sarnia was Nolan Dann. You know what? I've seen a lot out of him the last 2 days. Yesterday, specifically, I saw he had a great shot, good skill with the puck, and really good hockey sense. The one thing I noticed the most out of him, though, was that he already has built a really good chemistry with Pano Fimis on the line together. They're on the same team right now in training camp, but watching them go out there, they find each other on the ice like they've been playing for years and years and years. It's crazy to see. So I'm loving the built chemistry already for Nolan, Dan, and Pano Fimis. So hopefully that we see them on a line. Hopefully we'll have to see what the coaches do decide eventually. But he's looked great out of training camp a lot this year. Yeah,
I mean, we spoke to Nolan Dan in day 1, and he was really excited to be here, really wants to contribute offensively, being able to put up some goals, and it seems like he really wants to be a key contributor for this team in the top 6 if possible. He had a breakout year with the Sarnia Sting, almost around 60 points last year for them, for the Sting. So I think he's looking to improve on that, and hopefully he'll get the opportunity in the top 6 role with the IceDogs.
All right, and then, you know what, we speak a lot about like the new players, but even like the returning players, one defenseman, Usick.
Andrew Usick. Still got the Joe Dirt hair, but
but he has grown a few inches. He's definitely bulked up. He's grown a few inches in the offseason, and he's improved a lot in his speed. There was a couple plays we watched, and I'm like, okay, who was that? Like he went from one end of the ice and another, and he was flying. I'm like, oh my god, that's Usick. I don't even remember him doing that last year.
Yeah.
But he's definitely improved his skill a lot with even puck handling, too, at the same time. That takes a lot. If you're going at that speed and you can't handle a puck, you're just going to look like Bambi out there. It's just not going to look great. But he's definitely improved both aspects of that game with his puck handling and his speed. Brice Cooke has a big improvement this year. Great skating. He's got more of a grit in his game, which I love to see. We saw a little bit of that last year, but it looks like he's kind of focused on that a lot more.
I'll quickly touch on Brice Cooke. Definitely, speaking with him, that you'll hear in the interview later, he definitely felt like he hit his stride in the second half of the year last year, started to put in some goals, and really trying to build off of that, really trying to use his size and his grit to his advantage in front of the net. So Brice Cooke is a guy to look out for this year, as a guy, a net front presence, and a guy that can, be a top 9 forward, go up and down the lineup whenever they need him, and kind of be that grit and sandpaper forward that they really hope to get out of him. And who was the guy you mentioned? Oh, Usick. Yeah, I mean, Usick, he was flying up and down the ice, taking the puck into the carrying the puck into the zone, which I don't think we saw a lot of last year. It seems like he's a lot more confident, he's a lot quicker, and he's willing to take that opportunity to gain the zone as a defenseman to carry the play, which last year it seemed like he was a little bit timid at times, didn't really want to carry the puck in, really wanted to kind of have the puck off of his stick, but it looks like he's welcoming the challenge of taking the puck and being a puck carrier into the zone as a defenseman.
Exactly, and then also, lastly, Landon Cato. It'd be remiss if we didn't talk about him. He's looked great in training camp as he did last year. More of a physical game. I love that. We're going to joke about it now, but like he was pretty much giving it to Pano Fimis in this one drill, and then obviously it was just they were hugging after, but like
he's pushing the kids.
He is pushing the kids, and you know what? He's stepping into that captain role where he's teaching the younger kids that are here, and being that veteran presence in the team. I think and we talked to him off the ice as well. He's really grown into that captain spot really well, and I think he's going to be a fantastic captain and a lead defenseman for the Dogs this year. Yeah,
and you'll hear later in the interview, he's learned from some great leaders here in Niagara, and he's gone through some tough times here, but one thing that's for sure is Landon Cato is going to go out there and give it 110%. Again, you look at his numbers last year; they weren't, I'm sure, what he'd want to be, and I don't think anybody had a good plus-minus on this team last year. So, again, Landon Cato stepping into that captaincy role on and off the ice, just a great leader and a great person for these young kids to really look up to in all aspects.
Yeah, shout out to B-Cat on Twitter. His
sure.
Father.
Yeah, B-Cat too.
A fellow Brandon. You should love that.
Yeah, sure.
But the one I wanted to mention this, and I know it's tough to tell because IceDogs have 3 goalies. Right, they got Josh Rosenzweig,
Joey
Costanzo, and Bo Porofsky. Bo most likely will be going down to Junior B again. They're going to roll with Costanzo and Rosenzweig. But there was a goalie I was watching here at camp, and he's looked great so far. Dylan DeWatcher, great presence in the net. He fills that net really well, I thought. And he just looked like a great net presence, to be honest. And it's tough with goalies, especially here at this age. But there is some slight improvements in him challenging the puck a little bit. But I thought he looked great, and I know he's a camp invitee, so I just wanted to point it out that I think, out of the camp invites, goalie-wise, he was the most noticeable.
And the goalies have really stood on their head. I've really been impressed with a lot of the goalies in the scrimmages. Haven't been a lot of high-scoring games. There hasn't been a lot of... There's been a lot of opportunities, some power plays, but especially Rosenzweig, Costanzo, they've really stood on their head. Even Bo Porofsky this morning had a perfect couple of periods.
Yep.
So, again, the goalies are really stepping it up in this training camp, and it's good to see. We'll see a goalie session later on this afternoon, goalie-only session before the final scrimmage game. But definitely liking what we're seeing from training camp so far with the returning players, like you mentioned, and some of the rookies. It looks like there's people not competing for a lot of spots, but the competition level is at an all-time high with all these players that they've acquired and brought in. There might be some cuts that surprise some people because of the way that how competitive this team is, and that's the way that they want to be this year. They want to be a playoff contending team. They don't want to be at the bottom of the standings again, and bringing in all those players and trying to change the culture is what their goal is with that.
Exactly.
So with that, Kyle, is there anything else you want to mention as far as the training camp guys?
There's one for that we saw it mainly in the scrimmage. He looked great in the drills, but the scrimmage I think is where we've seen him really shine and show what he can do offensively. And that's Kevin He. We've seen a few times where he was doing these crazy moves and these crazy drives to the net. We did do a retweet yesterday, and then he looked great again today. His drive to net offensively is incredible. He zips around the defensemen with ease, and he's still carrying that puck. I think he's a guy that we should keep an eye on for this year. I think he's going to be a very big impact player for the IceDogs if he can transition that part of this game into his play, like in real game situations. I know it's tough to do with, you're going to run into teams that have those, have a set of defense that are big guys that are going to push you around. We'll see. I mean, we haven't really seen a test with him in that type of situation. Hopefully we do. If not, I'd like to see how he does in that situation and how he handles it, because if he can take that and produce in a way where he can get by these big defensemen, then I think he's going to be a very, very great asset for the Dogs.
He's tried that backhand forehand cut to the net about 5 or 6 times during these scrimmages. He scored one yesterday, but you can definitely see why the IceDogs wanted him as an early draft pick this past OHL priority selection draft, because he's definitely got the speed and the hands to be able to be an OHL player. Again, we'll see what comes with the physicality and that aspect of his game, but it seems like he's ready to go, and we'll see if he's able to crack the roster right away. But if not, he's definitely made a good impression for these guys and this team moving forward. Of what's to come of Kevin, he could be a really dynamic player moving forward. We'll move on to end the episode today, talking about the projected lineup. Kyle, if you want to quickly just go over again, it's very early to say what the lineup's going to look like.
Yeah,
but we might as well talk about it because we're here.
Right. It's interesting. I probably wouldn't necessarily do it this way, but it is what it is. I mean, I think anyone could take this lineup that we have here at camp and build their own fantasy IceDog team. But we'll see how it plays out. We'll see what the coaches think. They might have, they might think of another line that they see that builds chemistry, like I just said, we saw that Pano, Fimis, and Nolan, Dann look great out there. Maybe coaches saw that, and we're going to see a pairing of those two on the team this year. But the forward line they have for our projections that we have today, Nolan, Dann on line 1 with Pasquale Zito at center. I'm going to do that a lot. I already know I'm going to do that a lot. And Brendan Sarazotti at right wing, which is a decent first line. I mean, we saw some good stuff out of Sarazotti, especially today in the scrimmage this morning. Again,
when he's noticeable, he's great. But it's just, I feel like the consistency with Sarazotti just got to be there night in and night out. But if he can get there, he'd be an impact player for this team.
And then Nolan Dann looks like he's a great winger out there as well. I've seen a lot of times, again, when he was with Pano Fimis, he was finishing a lot of plays and being in that perfect spot where he needed to be. And he, again, get great hockey sense out there and where he needed to be, not only in the neutral zone, but the offensive zone and defensive zone. So I think he's going to be a crucial winger for them this year. Going into line 2, it looks like we see the combination line of the Toronto Junior Canadians. You get Brice, Cooke, Pano, Fimis, and Aidan Castle all on the line together. Which, I mean, if you have the chemistry there and if it's working, right? You put them together and you keep them together. Yeah. They have that junior connection, but if it's not working, I mean, at the end of the day, the coaches will switch and move people around. But if they want to start with that line, I mean, why not? I mean, you have that history connection there.
And they played a lot last year as well. The previous coaching staff trusted them to put them all on the ice together and kind of see what happens. They did have some good chemistry out there. It'd be tough to kind of have those guys all on a line again, but if it works out, it works out. And the IceDogs kind of have a luxury with that because it's not very common where you see an entire junior line come together when it comes to playing in their OHL team. So if you have that luxury, why not use it?
Yeah, I hope they fix that Zamboni door quickly because, my God. Anyways, going to line 3, Dylan Rubrick on the left wing, Daniel Michaud at first, or Michaud according to other announcers, and Matthew Pape. And
our man Steve Clark coming through. According to the Guelph radio guy, it is Matthew Papis? Papis.
Papis, really?
Yep.
Papis or Pepis?
Papis.
Papis.
Okay.
Matthew Papis.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to finding that information.
You know what? It wouldn't be an IceDog year without at least one player where we have to sit there and figure out how to say his last name.
We had a lot of those last year. Regardless, him.
Yes. But again, that's a decent line. We've seen, again, Michaud was another guy like Sarazotti that when he's noticeable out there, Michaud is a very big, impactful player. Hopefully he can carry that consistency with him. Dylan Rubrick.
He's a polarizing figure.
I mean, I've seen a lot of him last year. I mean, we saw big improvements out of him last year in the second half of the season. I remember us talking, and I remember seeing him. His difference from beginning of the season to end of the season was a big difference, and he really stepped up his game. And I think we can see a lot of that again this year. At a training camp, it was almost like the same. You got what you expected out of Dylan Rubrick. But I think, he can still be an impactful player for the Dogs in certain situations.
He could be a dominant net front presence if he...
We say that a lot, and I really hope he does take that. We saw, you know what, it's funny. I wonder if he's listening to the show, and if he is listening to the show, shout out to you, Dylan, because I remember us mentioning last year a lot in the second half of the season that we want to see Dylan in front of that net and stick his butt in front of that net and just screen the goalie. And what do we know? The next couple of weeks, we saw him doing that on the power play. So I really hope that he can use his size to his advantage this year and be that net front presence, especially in the power play. If you can get a guy in front of the net that's immovable and can screen the goalie with his size, then you got something going there with him.
Yep.
So we'll hopefully see that out of him. And then again, like we said, Matthew Pappas will be a great, again, he's not going to be the replacement for Daniil Gushin. If we're looking for that player that has the skill and the puck handling skills in his game, I think that's another player to keep an eye out for. Maybe even a guy that can move up and down the lineup, which is great. And then the fourth line of Kevin He, another guy, same thing with him. Another guy I feel that with some improvement in his game could be a guy that goes up and down the lineup. Declan Waddick at center, and then Juan Copeland, good friend of the show, Juan Copeland on the right side. You know what? I think that's looking at all four lines, those are pretty good lines, to be honest. I think we have a really structurally built team. And I can't really compare us to Hamilton's team last year because they had a few players that were, exceptional pieces of talent. But they were also a team last year that was structurally built up and down the lineup. From the first forward line to the fourth forward line, it was structurally built. And I think the IceDogs kind of have the pieces, I think, in place to be that type of team. As
long as they can produce at the
Exactly.
levels that they're expected to produce at.
Exactly.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's going to be the X factor for that forward group, I think, is
right.
Just living up to the expectations and the potential that we've all said that they have the last couple of years. And then again, just a lot of the extra guys that are battling, Vermeulen, Tanner Ryan, Cole Bishop coming up from Tennessee, the Chmielewskis, the Augustinellis. Those guys are all going to be battling for that extra spot, I think, in this lineup. And again, we saw when injuries happen, those guys got to be ready to go and be ready to jump in the lineup because it does happen.
Exactly. Guess we'll move on to the defensive side and projected Landon Cato with David Jesus, and this is. Jesus, this is a big line. This is Landon Cato and David Jesus' size on the ice is going to be something noticeable a lot for IceDog fans, especially David Jesus. He might not be as I'm trying to think of the big word as the size as thick. Is that a proper term?
Sure.
As
built,
maybe, but as Landon Cato, but. He can use his size to his advantage. We've seen him here at scrimmages.
Very good skater.
Very, very good skater, but also use his size to his advantage in the physical category. I've seen him try to take out a few players, not that way, but along the boards.
Work him off the puck.
Yeah, he looked very good out there with that aspect of his game. But those two together would be a really good pairing as a line one pairing. Rodwin Dionicio and Nathan Rebo as line two. Dionicio just coming back from his World Junior stint with
Team Switzerland.
He looked great. I've seen a couple of games with him out there, so that's good experience for him. Rebo, I thought, I mentioned it earlier, looked noticeable at camp. A lot of physical presence to his game. There was the drill, the compete drill with him in front of the net, clearing the front of the net. That's something the IceDogs desperately needed last year, and it was something that killed them a lot. A lot of shots from the point got right through and to players that were just standing in front of the net and battling and knocking the loose pucks home. I saw a lot of that last year against the Dogs. So if we can get more players like Rebo, I think that's going to be a very big benefit for the team.
Yep, he's a great guy you need on your lineup. And he, again, played on that great Windsor team last year, came over with Pasquale Zito in that big offseason trade. So they're expecting a lot out of Nathan Rebo because he knows what it takes to be able to clear a net front presence and playing in those dog days of April, May.
Exactly. Yeah.
And going into those deep playoff runs and being able to help the team in that aspect. He's going to be a big addition to this team and in a top four role. And Dionicio definitely looking to build off of his team's his performance at the World Juniors for Team Switzerland.
Exactly. And then rounding that out with Alec Leonard, the returning Alec Leonard, and Andrew Usick. Again, we mentioned how the improvements of Andrew Usick. Alec Leonard, I haven't really seen him too much out of camp. Hopefully that he's I try to keep up with as much players as possible here at camp. Didn't really see a lot out of Alec Leonard. Hopefully that he's improved his game. But it's just, I personally, this is probably biasm here. I would have Sammy Douglas Najim in the top six, but regardless, I think you mentioned it to me off air, I think showed up in training camp last year, not only last year, but this year as well, that he can be that very great first call-up guy if he doesn't indeed make the top six out of
Out of training camp.
I think he's definitely proven himself and proven to be a reliable defenseman.
I want to mention quickly about Alec Leonard. He was probably one of the most improved players last year from the first half of the season to the second half. Coming in as a young defenseman and being forced in a top six role, and with all the injuries and everything that was going on last year, he really improved a lot in the second half. And really, even though he's a smaller defenseman, wasn't afraid to go into the corners and be physical. He laid out a few guys in open ice last year, so he's a guy that I think is going to take that next step. Again, as a defenseman, it's a little harder to see. It's kind of better sometimes that you don't notice them. That means they're not getting beat. They're not,
right.
It's kind of, if they're not as noticeable on the defensive side of the puck, that's not a bad thing. But I really think that Andrew Usick is going to take a next step this year. And I was thinking, maybe Sammy Douglas-Najim would beat out Andrew Usick, but the way Usick's looking at training camp, it looks like it's going to be a healthy competition for that spot, and I'd be okay with Sammy just being the extra defenseman at this point and working his way into the lineup whenever injuries do happen.
Exactly, and then you also got Lucas Littlejohn there, who's had an interesting off-season. Winning a lacrosse championship was very interesting to see.
The Minto Cup.
Yeah, good for him. And then Ryan Van Netten, who, I've seen, I've watched him a little bit in camp this year. Maybe not the greatest physical-wise. I mean, he does need to improve that aspect of his game, but I saw him very great on his stick. The stick defense with him in a defensive zone when they were running a couple of those drills, he was doing fantastic. Didn't matter what forward. He was going up against some of the top IceDog forwards, and he was knocking those pucks. Like, he was very strong on his stick, and I think that was the one great part out of his game. So
he wasn't afraid and didn't look out of place.
No, he did. He looked really well up there. So hopefully, even him, he can have a healthy battle for a spot on the team and be a reliable call-up as well. And again, injuries do happen, and these players will unfortunately be healthy scratches or be sent down. But hey, like, when the injuries do happen and they get called up and they show something to this team, it goes a long way.
Luckily, Douglas-Najim and Littlejohn, they were used to that role last year. They did it multiple times, and again, they're willing to just go in there, and it's not easy having to just be forced into the fire and play top minutes, but they've both had experience doing that, and hopefully this year it'll help them again moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously brought out the goalies, really plain simple, Rosenzweig and Costanzo will be your starting and most likely and backup goalie, with Bo Porosky most likely being sent down. And then you have the two camp invitees. Like I said, the one that impressed me the most was Dylan DeWatcher, but your goalies, you're getting with those two. And Costanzo has looked like he improved. I saw a lot of improvement in him in the later half of the season when he was starting those games, and it looks like he's done a lot of work in the offseason and really filled that net more, challenging the puck even more, and he's looking like he's filling into that goalie spot a lot better. And in last year, obviously, right, he gets called in from basically, I'm pretty sure he got called in from Junior B to be the starting backup.
Yeah, when Tucker Tynan and Rosenzweig were projected to be the 1 and 2 goalies, Costanzo, he was taken as a high draft pick, but they didn't know if he was going to play much last year. And when Tucker Tynan was traded, it was Costanzo and Rosenzweig's net, and Costanzo, in the few games that he was able to get in there in the first half of the season, it looked like he was a little bit wide-eyed at times, but as the season went on, he got more and more confident, and that's everything with goaltenders, the confidence, to be able to have that experience. And they faced a ton of shots last year between both those goaltenders, so they got a lot of game action, and I think it's going to be a healthy competition this year between those two for the starting job and kind of see where it goes. I think Rosenzweig starts the year as the starting goalie, but if he starts to struggle a little bit and Costanzo really shows a lot in his couple of starts, I think you could definitely see closer to a 50-50 split at some point in the
Especially
season.
Today's scrimmage, I've seen him, the confidence level with Costanzo has definitely gotten a lot better from last year in the games that we've seen him. So good on him for improving that aspect of his game. And again, like you said, confidence is a really big thing with goalies. If you have an unconfident goalie in there, he's not gonna play that next level that the IceDogs definitely need back there in the net. With, you think about over the years of how the great goaltenders this team had, like, it's been a while since we had that bona fide star in our team, and it ends up being the goaltender position. I'm talking back to the days when we had Nedeljkovic, even farther back with Visiting, like guys who were absolute stars on the team at the time. So if these two goalies can definitely have a breakthrough year, it would be nice to have a goalie like that. But like you said, that takes a lot of confidence to be even that role.
Yeah, I think both goalies are going to be hopefully competing for that job in a healthy competition and make each other better. And again, help this team try to become a playoff team once again. But With that said, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle, I don't know if you want to say anything before we wrap up today. Live from IceDogs training camp here.
That's right, live from IceDogs training camp at the Marine Center, where it's filled with Zamboni noises and drill noises.
Yeah, and thank you for Steve Clark for filling in as our
honorary third guest, third host, our fat checker. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to mention there, Clarky?
No, I think you guys covered it all.
Okay. All right, we've gotten the blessing from the great play-by-play voice on the TV side for the Niagara IceDogs. You'll hear a lot of him on the TV side again this year. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up for today's special edition Dog Pound episode live from IceDogs Training Camp 2022. Look forward to the preseason games coming up, and again, stay tuned to the rest of the episode for the training camp interviews with the team. So, stay tuned here on the Dog Pound podcast, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Here with IceDogs returning forward, Aidan Castle. Aidan, your second training camp here in Niagara. What is it? How is it different from the last time that you were here for your first training camp as a rookie, now being back as a veteran?
Well, it's a bit different. I think just the schedule's a bit different. A lot more games, a bit more comfortable with how things work, and it's been good, just meeting all the new guys, meeting all the returning guys again. Haven't seen them for a while. It's great, and it's been good. I think it's been a better experience than last year so far with how everything's went in terms of seeing the guys, and I didn't really get the full experience last year with being traded a bit later into camp, so it's been good to get a full training camp.
Seems like there's a little bit of a swagger, a little bit of a new confidence with this team with all the trades you guys made in the offseason. And it seems like you guys are really in it to go far this year. And knowing that last year was a good learning experience and growing experience for you as a group, but now you're looking to take that next step this year.
Yeah, 100%. And, it just shows with the players we brought in, we're ready to win. And I think last year was kind of the growing pains of what's to come. And we're, like I said, we're ready to win. And we got the right people to do it with. And I think it starts right now, and we got to get improve and get together as a team and come together and win.
It's pretty rare that you get to be along with two teammates from your minor midget days with Pano, Fimis, and Brice Cooke, both back this year along with you. Just what has that been like, being able to be around those guys for so many years? You guys are so familiar with each other on and off the ice, just being able to have that relationship with those guys.
Yeah, like you said, on and off the ice. I mean, on ice, it's great to have two guys you played with for so long, and chemistry is great, and hopefully we get to spend a bit of time together on a line and have the chemistry we've built up over the years, and it's been good. I mean, off ice we're close, and all the boys are close, so it's great, and just to have some familiar faces all the time, and all these guys you can lean on are great.
And do you have some goals you're kind of open to achieve this year, personal goals, team goals, or is there something that you're really looking forward to proving this year and showing that last season won't define you as a player?
I'll start with the team. I think we can go deep in the playoffs. I think we have the players to do it, and I think we can. Well, last year it was tough. We couldn't, there was nights where we couldn't compete with teams. I think this year we'll compete every night, and personally, I think for me it was a bit of disappointment I didn't get drafted last year. I think being drafted this year definitely a goal. Just helping the team win any way I can, doing anything I can to help the team win is also a personal goal of mine as well. So.
And lastly, what has this new coaching staff tried to instill into you? Have they said kind of what they expect from you this year as far as your role, or just in general the thoughts on the new coaching staff coming in and trying to put in a new system, but also relying on you veterans to kind of take the lead with that?
Yeah, exactly. Hasn't really touched on how much of a role I'm playing, but I think it'll be obviously a bigger role than last year, and I think I'm ready for that. And I've been training a lot this summer and getting better and bigger and stronger, and I think I'm ready for a big year, and so is the team.
IceDogs new coming defenseman David Jesus. David, first time being here in Niagara, but you're a veteran player, so what is your mindset going into training camp as somebody that's been through it before?
Yeah, from my past years in Oshawa, I learned from all the great guys there, all the veterans and leaders that have moved on. So, I just want to teach these young guys and be a leader on and off the ice for these guys, knowing how to prepare themselves before practice, after practice, and be ready for when the game comes, because at the end of the day, we all want to win, and we all have one goal to get to that next level. And it all starts off the ice, eating habits, sleeping habits, everything else. It all matters, and all adds up at the end of the day at the end of your 68-game season. So everyone wants to be prepared and ready to go. So I just want to help these young kids be ready for when that time comes.
And you come from a great program in Oshawa, obviously a perennial playoff team, made the playoffs last year. So what are you trying to instill in those guys, like you mentioned, the off-ice stuff and preparation, but knowing what it's like to get to the playoffs and helping a team that really hasn't had any playoff success in the last few years and hasn't made the playoffs. So how are you kind of going to instill that kind of mindset and that swagger that you have to make the playoffs and losing is unacceptable?
Yeah, at the start of every practice, you want to be ready to go. It starts in practice because your practice habits are going to be your game habits. So, if you're going to take off in the gym or take off practice, you're going to take off the game time, and you're not going to be prepared and ready to go. So it all starts when you go to sleep the night before. You wake up, have a good breakfast, have a good preparation before that practice, and then you go to sleep and get prepared for that game. So I want to teach the young kids the right way. And if you lead by example, they'll follow you because they'll look up to you at the end of the day.
And lastly, for IceDog fans that maybe aren't familiar with what you bring to the table as far as your on-ice play, just how would you describe yourself as a player on the ice? And is there anything that you're really looking to improve on this year and maybe take a next step, either offensively, defensively, or your all-around game?
Yeah, I think all-around game pretty much, but I bring pretty much a two-way defenseman. I need to be more physical, have more fights this year. I want to put up more points and goals. Want to work on all parts of my game. Nothing's perfect, otherwise I'd be at the next level already. So I don't think anyone's perfect. I always have room to improve, and I want to be able to succeed at that next level. So I'm willing to take whatever it takes and learn from all the coaching staff here, as I believe we have great coaches and great staff. So I'm ready to get started with all the guys here and meet all new faces and get ready for the first game of the season, as it starts now in training camp and leads all the way to the 68-game season and goes into playoffs as well.
Newcomer and former Windsor Spitfire, Pasquale Zito. Pasquale, being down here in Niagara for your first time in training camp, obviously you're a veteran player, but what have you thought of training camp so far, and what have you thought about getting accustomed to the new team down here in Niagara?
So far, so good. I love the team here. Training camp's been hard, but good. It's nice getting the legs back into game shape, and looking forward to a great year.
What did you really learn about yourself as a player last year? Obviously, Windsor, you guys went on to have a great run, won the Western Conference, and came within one game of winning the OHL championship, and then being traded here to Niagara. So what did you really learn from that experience going through that deep playoff run and trying to bring that experience to this very young team in Niagara that's still trying to build into a competitive winning culture?
Well, it starts in the room. I tell you, Windsor went through a lot of adversity, so did I. Being in and out of the lineup. Just with injuries and suspensions, but I'm coming here to Niagara with a positive mind, trying to be a leader on this team, and help the guys build their confidence in the room and just develop their play on the ice.
You were drafted by the Detroit Red Wings. You missed the season due to COVID, and then you got a new head coach in Windsor, Mark Savard, a former great NHL player. Just really, what have the last couple of years been like getting into the Red Wing system, and then obviously having Mark Savard as a head coach to learn from?
Yeah, Savvy was a great coach, great guy. He taught me a lot in the dressing room there in Windsor. It was obviously pretty cool to be drafted by Detroit, being right across from the Ambassador Bridge. So they came a couple of times to watch. So it's a great organization there in Detroit, and I'm looking forward to heading down there soon.
And for IceDog fans that haven't got accustomed to what your playing style is, just what type of player are you going to be on the ice for this team, and are you going to play a full full ice game and a full two-way game for fans to be excited about? And what do you kind of hope to contribute this year as far as maybe personal goals for yourself?
I don't have any personal goals yet, but I'm here to be an energetic player, be a leader, play a 200-foot game, and just play with a lot of passion and just try to win games for this team.
Second-year goaltender Joey Costanzo. Joey, back at Niagara IceDogs training camp, how does it feel to be at your second training camp now and having a year under your belt? Just the thoughts on being back.
Yeah, it's been a good summer, but I'm happy to be back now, meet a lot of the new guys. Obviously, see some of the old guys again I haven't seen in a few months now, so it's a great feeling to be back, and I'm excited for the new year.
What have you been working on in the offseason to really get you ready and ramped up for this season? Obviously, last season was a little bit challenging with all the COVID shutdowns and things like that. So just how excited are you to finally get back to a regular year of hockey?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be fun going to see all the West teams and all the new buildings, stuff like that. I've only seen half the league, so that'll be a fun experience for me. As far as the offseason goes, it's been going to my draft year. I've been working on lot of body, a lot of off-ice stuff, but also a lot of on-ice stuff as well. I think my skating and just my overall strength and skating ability has gotten a lot better this summer, so I'm looking forward to the new year and showcasing that.
Being back with Rosenswag here, competing for the starting job, and a lot of young goaltenders here as well. So what are you trying to kind of get out of this week, and are you reaching out to any of those young goaltenders and just trying to help them through this camp? Because you were once there as a young goaltender and knew what it was like to come into a situation like this.
Yeah, exactly. I think you said it well. I was in this position last year where guys like Rosie and past years, guys like Tucker Tynan really showed me the ropes. So now I'm in their position now, showing these new guys the ropes. I have a great relationship with Josh, and I'm looking forward to having a great year with him.
Early on, is there any goals that you're really trying to achieve this year, personal goals, team goals? Is there anything that you're really looking forward to this season as far as something that you're trying to achieve?
I don't know if I have any long-term goals. Obviously, we have stuff like draft and playoffs and all that stuff coming up, but really I think as a team we're just going to take it day by day, do what we can every day to achieve our goals during the daily basis, doing our best every day, competing hard, and we'll drive within the headlights for now.
Second year player Juan Copeland. Juan, you're back again for your second training camp with the IceDogs. Just what are you trying to take from this week, and maybe something that you kind of, now that you have one under your belt going into your second training camp, how do you feel?
Yeah, definitely show up and do your best every single time. And the biggest thing for me is, getting to learn the new staff and getting to learn how they like to play and playing in their style of play.
Your second half of the season was very strong last year, especially the last couple months of the season. You started to really hit your stride with scoring a lot of goals. Just what did you feel like you gained in that second half of the season that really helped you elevate your game to the next level in your rookie year?
Yeah, when I feel like when they gave me the opportunity, you have to seize it, and so you had to work a little extra hard to stay up in the lineup and play the bigger minutes with the bigger boys. Playing against guys that are drafted or guys that are still 80-point guys. So the biggest thing is working hard and trusting the process. A
lot's happened in this offseason, but there's a lot of optimism going into the season with a lot of guys in their second year like yourself and a lot of guys coming back and then a couple of new guys as well. So what is the kind of just the expectations for you guys this year? Obviously finishing at the bottom last year is not something you want to repeat. So how do you guys change that and work your way back up the standings this year into a playoff spot?
Yeah, so we got a lot of trades in, obviously, and a lot of big players and big names, so I think that'll help us out. But I think the rookie group we're bringing in is very strong and solid throughout the lineup. They could play with most third and possibly second lines, and I think our top three lines are going to be killer this year, and our fourth line is going to kill every other fourth line. But, with that, it's going to be the process with the coaches and trusting them.
And what are you trying to go into this season as trying to find your role in this team? What are you hoping to get out of this season, and kind of where do you kind of see yourself? And maybe are you trying to look to the rookies and try to show them kind of the ropes, because you were in your first training camp last year and you know how nervous it was. So kind of how are you trying to carve out your role but also be a mentor for these young guys?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is I feel I make plays, I can move, and I like to open guys up and get the guys the puck, but the biggest thing is come in and be yourself. It's okay to be nervous, but play yourself and be the player that you are and know it and be confident in it and show the coaches what you got, because they have you coming in for a reason. They don't have anybody just coming in. So
IceDogs newcomer Nolan Dann, acquired from the Sarnia Sting in the offseason. Nolan, first year here in Niagara. Just what are you trying to come in here as a veteran player, but also it's your first camp here in Niagara, so how are you feeling?
I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to playing hockey with this team, and I think we got a great year ahead of us. I think all the boys are ready to put in the work and do whatever it takes to be a good team.
Coming from the Western Conference and the Sarnia Sting, didn't get to play against the Eastern Conference at all last year. So did you really have any kind of ideas of what the IceDogs were like? A very young roster, but kind of from the outside looking in, what did you think of this team?
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention to them a whole lot last year, obviously in the other division. I hear great things about the young guys in this organization, and we got a very bright future here, and I think it's going to be really good.
And you had a breakout year with Sarnia last year. Just what was the key to your success and kind of finally having that first breakout season in the OHL and trying to build on that this year, coming to a new team? It might not be as easy, but kind of trying to build off that great season you had last year.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a lot of chemistry based. You got to make it exciting and look forward to coming to the rink every day. You can't be dreading it at all. So I think that helped a lot, getting to know the boys and truly becoming great friends with a lot of guys on that team. So I think that's my game plan here, is to build a lot of good relationships with a lot of people on this team, and make it enjoyable to come here, because the hockey's the easy part then.
And lastly, for the Niagara fans that don't kind of know a lot about you yet, just what type of player should they expect to get from you night in and night out, and the type of style that you want to play every night?
I want to lead by example. I want to work hard every shift, every game. I'm going to give it all I got all the time, and look to put points up on the board.
IceDogs fourth-year player Landon Cato, and newly named captain of the Niagara IceDogs, Landon Cato. Landon, thoughts on being back for another training camp with the IceDogs? A little bit different of approach now. You're now being named the team captain, so just thoughts on that, and thoughts on coming into training camp and being that leader that everybody's looking up to right now.
Yeah, first off, really excited to be named captain and to be back with all the boys. I think it's been a pretty long summer of hard work, and I think now that we're back, I think all the boys are looking forward to playing and getting on the ice. And I think for me, I think the biggest thing is just get all these boys to work hard, honestly. Because the biggest thing in hockey is just work ethic. So if we're able to get into camp, we're able to do our thing at camp right away, I think everything will work out fine. I think we have the guys in the room to do the best job they can do, honestly.
You've been through a few of these training camps, so what is your kind of mentality and your approach going into this, being your fourth time here in Niagara for training camp? So how have things grown over the years, and what have you kind of learned from the experiences that you've had the last 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, every year you kind of learn something new. With COVID, we learned how to deal with a lot of adversity, but I think this year, honestly, we're going to learn how to win. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's something that we've been lacking in the last couple of years, and I think this year, for Niagara fans, for the staff, I think we're here to win now, and I think that's the biggest mentality for everyone, is just come in and put your best effort forth, and only good things can happen from there.
A lot of trades this offseason, like you mentioned, a lot of guys being brought in. Is that kind of, what's gone on the last couple of years, you guys putting that in the rearview mirror, and winning is all ultimately what your goal is this year, and nothing less would be disappointing?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think trades are always tough, for sure. Like, you lose a pretty close buddy of yours. But I think it's bittersweet. I think we lose a couple buddies, and we bring in some guys that are ready to win and ready to put their best effort forward. And I think the guys that we brought in, especially all the new guys, I think they're going to just gel well with our team. We're here for our first day, and it already feels like we've been together for a week. So I think that's the best part, and I think everyone here just knows exactly what we have to do. And all the new guys, we're all getting in touch. We're all hanging out. So I think this year we're all just trying to blend in and get a winning atmosphere in Niagara.
And being here for so long, you've known a lot of the great leaders that have come through this team, the Akil Thomases, the Dakota Betts. So what are you kind of trying to take from those guys that you're going to put into your style as a captain, or is there something that you're really just going to continue to build on as the player you are all the time?
Yeah, I mean, like, my 4 years, I've had 4 different captains, so I think there's something from every single one of them that I can take. All of them have been absolute role models. If you start with Betsy do anything for the boys. Anyone on the ice, anything gets happened, he's there to make sure he knows what's going on. I think that's probably the biggest thing, just always being there for your team and just learning from yourself, almost like always improving every single day. And yeah, that's the biggest thing, honestly. Just being one of the boys, like, because I have a C on my chest doesn't mean that anything changes. We still all go the exact same. We all go as hard as we can, and yeah, everyone's just trying to get the same goal, really, honestly.
Back with Aidan Castle, Pano, Fimis, 2 guys that you've been familiar with since minor midget. So how has it been being around those guys again and returning with some new faces, but also having those guys to lean on as well as familiar faces back with this team?
Yeah, those 2 guys they're fun to be around. They're good guys, and we played together for like 4 years before, so we know what to do. And the other guys, we got a really good team this year, so it's exciting.
It seems like there's a lot of optimism now. A lot of things changed in the offseason. You made a lot of trades, brought in a lot of new guys. It seems like there's a new kind of attitude around this team that you're ready to win, and you're not ready to be the last place team like you were last year.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, we're trying everything here. We got a new team, new system. It's just a different vibe around the room, so everyone's really excited.
Seems like you really picked your game up in the second half of the year. You really started to use your physical play. You really started to get to the front of the net. You started to put in some goals, and you really took that next step in the second half of the season. So what are you trying to build on from that? And obviously having the summer to kind of come back here now for the new season to kind of continue to elevate your game to another level.
Yeah, just having that adjustment from the first half of the year was huge, coming back after Christmas, and it just has that same feeling right now after the whole first year coming back to the second year. So I'm really excited to get going.
And lastly, what do you think your role is going to be on this team? Are you willing to just go out there and play whatever the coach asks of you? What type of impact are you looking to make? Do you have some personal goals about points or things like that? Or is it really just putting in anything to help the team win?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Whatever I need to do. I like scoring goals, so that'll be a key for me this year. But honestly, anything I can do to help the team win is going to be good.
Returning forward for the Niagara IceDogs, Pano, Fimis. Pano, your second training camp here in Niagara. How does it feel to be back, and what did you kind of learn from your first camp that you're kind of trying to take into your second camp here?
Yeah, it feels good to be back. I feel better than ever, so I'm looking forward to the season ahead, and I think there's a bright future here in Niagara. So.
What did you learn from being at Toronto Maple Leafs development camp? That was a big opportunity for you, obviously being a Toronto native, getting to play for, getting to be a part of the Toronto Maple Leafs development camp. And what did you kind of learn from that, and that you're trying to take to the next level here?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I got to learn a ton playing with great players like Nyes. He's a great player, a great prospect through their organization, so there's a lot to learn from there and bring it into Niagara and use it to my advantage, and also relay a lot of the messages that I got here, and hopefully bring it forward and give some expertise to some of the other players. So.
Putting on that sweater, it must have been a unique feeling for you to be able to put on, a Toronto Maple Leafs logo, even though it was development camp, but it was still a big moment for you. And are you kind of trying to use that as motivation this year to kind of show any NHL teams what you're capable of to kind of earn that pro contract this year?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an honor to wear the Leafs jersey, especially being a hometown boy. It's pretty special, and the history in the organization. So that was great. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot to prove here and a big season ahead, and just trying to prove myself that they missed out on something big a couple months ago. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of new faces here this season. You guys made a lot of off-season moves. Are you guys really going in with the mentality that last season was last season, and now you guys are really – the expectation is to win, and anything less would kind of be disappointing? Are you guys really trying to go into this season with a winning attitude and show that that last season you built off of that?
100%. Last year's in the rearview mirror, and this year's a fresh start, and like you said, there's a winning mentality coming into this season, and I think we got big things ahead.
And lastly, what are your expectations or goals for yourself? Are you kind of putting in the back of your head, certain milestones that you want to achieve this year, or is it all just kind of being a leader on the ice for these young kids and taking that next step and helping this team get into that playoffs?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple milestones that I'd like to hit. But like you said again, there's a leadership aspect to it, and I'd like to bring that forward as well.
Returning defenseman Rodwin Dionicio. Rodwin, you were just at Team Switzerland for the World Juniors. The tournament got postponed until the summertime. So just how was your experience there, and how excited were you to play for your home country?
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I wasn't really expecting to get an invite for this year. So when I got the invite for the camp, and I was just getting dialed in to make it happen, and yeah, when it comes to it, I was ready. Yeah, it was a good experience at that tournament as an 04. Yeah, learned a lot.
Seems like Team Switzerland has only been getting better as a program, and what have you really thought of as growing up within that program and seeing it, get so far and becoming a staple in the hockey community as a country to always look out for when it comes to these tournaments?
So I'm being in the national team till Science U16, so I know every year what we're looking for at the national team. So I see the progress that we're doing, and we just have to still work hard as a small country, try to be the best every time, and it's not hard against the big countries, but we are coming up, yeah.
And now being back here in Niagara, just how are you enjoying it so far, and what are you kind of trying to take out of this week of being now that you're a veteran on this team?
So actually it's my first camp ever. Last year was because of COVID, never experienced it, so I'm happy to see what's coming up, and want to show something, prove me at that camp, and help the other guys that need some help, and yeah, it's just making the next step, yeah.
And what's your goals going into the season? Obviously, last year wasn't the season that you guys wanted, but you're coming back here, a new attitude. A lot of new guys are on this roster. A lot of trades were made. So just how excited are you guys to kind of build that winning culture here and get back into the playoffs?
Yeah, so it's almost like a new organization. So now coming in here, like a whole of new faces in here, happy to see that. I'm like, we're gonna have a good year this year, that's for sure. We're gonna try to do our best, and yeah, we're gonna make those playoffs, and yeah, we're gonna make that city proud.
And lastly, what are your goals for this season? Do you have any personal goals that you're hoping to achieve, building off of that great World Juniors you had for Switzerland, and kind of trying to be a veteran on this team for some of the new guys and the younger guys that are coming up?
Yeah, so how you just say it, being a veteran, I'm now that guy that needs to make a step, try like in the locker room, like help, try to say something like for the team, step up on the ice, like big moments to prove what I can. And yeah, it's just so stuff like this, want to make a next step in my game, and yeah, I'm happy to go forward for that.
Turning forward, Michaud. Daniel, you were acquired last year by the IceDogs, your second year here, back at training camp now. How do you feel coming into having a year under your belt here with this team and trying to take that next step?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back. Training camp's been good so far. It's been only, I think, a couple hours in, so not too much has been happening, but it's been good.
How has the vibe been around the team? Obviously, a lot of acquisitions in the offseason, and it seems like you guys are really trying to take that next step from last year, obviously not making the playoffs, and now trying to be a competitive team and be one of the teams to look out for in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the vibes have been good. Great group of guys in the locker room, and we're working harder than ever right now. You know, it starts here and keep going from now.
Being a veteran player, just what are you kind of expecting of yourself as your role on the team gets bigger, and kind of trying to gain the trust of the new coaching staff to kind of put you in any game situation as a two-way player and a two-way center to really do anything to help the team win?
Yeah, I got a couple years in this league, so I think I know what I'm doing. I think I'm going to bring everything that I've learned throughout those past years into this season and just keep going, keep competing, keep playing hard.
And lastly, are there any goals that you're really setting for yourself this year as far as things that you'd like to accomplish? And obviously, you'd like to make the playoffs with this team and take that next step. But is there really anything that's changed from you in the summertime and kind of looking ahead to this year?
Yeah, I'd say I got a couple personal goals, but I think for the team aspect, I think we got to compete hard this season and push for a playoff run. I don't want an early exit, nor does anyone, right? So I think playing deep into the playoffs is something that's huge for our team.
Here with the new head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Dan Fitzgerald. Dan, first training camp in Niagara, obviously as the head coach. Just how are you feeling and getting adjusted to the OHL style?
Feeling great. The kids have been awesome. They've come prepared, ready to work. We have a great staff here, great management team. It was nice to see some of the fans in the stands for the inter-squad games, and we'll have some more come in this evening. So far it's been fantastic.
Seems like there's a new swagger and a new confidence with this team. Obviously, coming in, there's been a lot of moves made in the offseason. You guys acquired a lot of top players, a lot of players from great programs, playoff contending teams. So was that kind of the goal, to bring in as many competitive players as possible to make this, sort of trying to build that winning culture again here in Niagara after a couple down years?
Yeah, I think bringing in those guys with that kind of experience helped us press fast forward on a bit of a rebuild. Obviously, we needed to improve from the year last year, and we expect a lot of the guys coming back that they're going to take the jump. But having those guys who've been in those tough situations, long playoff runs, they're going to bring a lot of experience to the room and allow these guys to feed off their energy and the experience that they've had. There's some guys who are young, they're pushing in. I think everybody's vying for a spot right now, and it's exciting to see all the competitive juices flowing.
Is there anything that you and your coaching staff have tried to instill into these guys, or anything that you've let them know that you want to see from them as far as anything on the ice? I know a couple of those in-tight drills trying to work on puck possession and trying to bump guys off the puck and things like that. So was there kind of a strategy on how you guys wanted to really present this training camp to the guys?
Yeah, we wanted to give them an early dose of what our style of play is going to be. We want to be fast. We want to be physical. We want to play skilled. We want the puck. We want to keep the puck. We value the middle of the ice. We defend that very strongly. We like to attack in our defense. And then off the ice, we're looking for good people. We're looking for character and compete. Are you a competitive person? Are you a good person? Are you a good citizen? Are you a good teammate? So all those things that we're evaluating. It's not just on the ice, but I think we've done a good job so far of showing the guys what we're looking for in our style of play, but then also the kind of culture that we're trying to set here.
And lastly, about Landon Cato, naming him the captain of the Niagara IceDogs, is that really a no-brainer? Obviously, you weren't here the last 3 or 4 years that Landon's been here, but he's been through a lot of ups and downs with this team, seen a lot of good players and a lot of good leaders come through. So what did you see from Landon that you really thought, you know what, he's ready to be the captain of this team and move forward as we try to build it to that playoff run once again?
Yeah, Landon's confident. Landon's competitive. Landon cares. It's so obvious when you meet him. When Darren and I met him back in June, it was apparent to us that this guy's the leader of the hockey club, and we couldn't be happier to have him wearing the C for us.
And is there anything, lastly, I know I said last question, but as you build towards the regular season, is there anything between now and the preseason and leading into the regular season that you're really looking for as far as the final guys that are going to make that opening day roster and kind of trying to fill out what your team's going to look like come September 29th?
Yeah, we want to see who's going to get up to the standard the quickest, and those that aren't, we're going to make sure that we get them there as quickly as we can. And then we also need to build some chemistry within the lines, within the units. But most importantly, we want to build relationships with these guys. We've got to know them a little bit so far, and took the opportunity to talk with them on the phone and over Zoom over the summer. The orientation camp was a good opportunity to get to know them a little bit. First 2 days here, we've done a little bit more, but we're really going to get to know each other, trust each other, build those relationships, and once we do that, we're really going to be flying.
Joined now by the Assistant General Manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Wes Consorti. Wes, you're here in Niagara now. How does it feel to be down here and getting to work? It seems like you guys haven't had a lot of time to get things going here, but how's the process been and trying to get things going before training camp and the season?
Good. I'm very excited to get things going finally with the players, our staff, our fans. The community support's been outstanding. We're just excited to put a very competitive product on the ice for the region to enjoy.
What have you thought of camp so far? You guys obviously made a lot of trades in the offseason to improve this team. Have you been pleased with what you've seen so far with a lot of those players you brought in from very good programs around the league and just making that competition level even better and trying to build that winning culture here again in Niagara?
Yeah, like right away you can see the players that we did bring in elevated the players that already were here. Bringing in the types of players that we did bring in brings up everyone's level. There was some nervous energy, I think, in the first day. I think that got ironed out throughout the first session yesterday. Today was, we thought, a good improvement all the way throughout the lineup. And we're just looking forward to this afternoon.
And is there kind of an update on how you guys are going to kind of go about the cuts? Are you guys going to kind of wait around a little bit? Or are you going to kind of wait for a few preseason games? Or just kind of what is the mindset there of how you're going to really cut down this roster to make that opening day lineup?
Well, right now, after today, we will have some player meetings with decisions, and then as we move on, obviously we need to get some deeper looks on some players during the preseason and as we get close to the regular season to finalize our roster and keep that competitive. Everyone wants to play here. That's here. So there's jobs available. There's jobs to be had, and we're going to give the appropriate looks to those players we feel that can fit that spot.
What do you think the biggest transition for you and the whole staff has been, and even the coaching staff for that matter, coming to the OHL and a new challenge for you guys? Are you guys really looking forward to getting things going with the season and really proving that things can change around here in Niagara very quickly?
We're just excited to have our players come to the rink and play hockey and, go home and, get their rest and come back and do it all over again and play more hockey. We feel if we can put the right structure in for our players to come to the rink and play hockey on an everyday basis, that's going to improve their game, our product. And, with the community support, I think it's a good mix to implement a culture where our hockey players are here to play hockey, our business staff is here to do business, and our hockey operations is here to do hockey operations.
Exactly. So going off of that, it seems like just talking with the players this week, it seems to be a lot different of an atmosphere, a lot more swagger, a lot more confidence. They went through a rough year the last year and even the last couple of years here. It seems like there's a newfound confidence with this group that they believe that they can do this. And obviously with the changes in the offseason, Wayne Gretzky being a minority owner with this team, there's a lot more eyes, I think, on this team now just because of that. So just what are you guys trying to instill in them from this week, even the guys that maybe won't make the team and that will maybe be call-ups later in the year, but just trying to instill that winning culture back here in Niagara?
Yeah, we want our players to come to the rink every day excited to be here. We want players that are on other teams to want to come here. We want, anyone that's, eligible to play in the OHL to play in Niagara. We have a fantastic facility. We have one of the best fan bases in the entire league. The community support is outstanding, and we just feel, if the structure is in place, that this is a team that can, win a lot of hockey games and compete for a championship. And we feel with our group now, we're just very excited for the future.
And lastly, with your connection with Brantford, do you kind of see them being an option as far as somebody to use for an essential farm system, or are you just kind of going to go around the rest of the leagues and try to place players wherever they can be most successful, or do you see some sort of partnership happening down the road with the Brantford 99ers?
Well, what's important for players in that situation to understand, we have to do what's best for that player, depending on where they're currently signed, where they currently live. There's lots of other factors that go into just a strict, affiliation with the Brantford 99ers in the OJHL, or if that's the Brantford Bandits in the GOJHL. We have to do what's right for the player first, because if we don't do that right off the bat, the Niagara IceDogs won't be benefiting from that, that relationship with that player. So, there's going to be players in that position where, if they're in Brantford, we can use them for Niagara. It just has to be the right situation. We're not just going to say you're playing in Brantford because you're a Niagara IceDogs draft pick.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.